My name is Randy Bartholomew. I'm an architect. My studio is in Austin, Texas, and my practice is sacred geometry. I'm here to present to you a brief introduction of sacred geometry. I want to begin with a quote from that famous philosopher, poet, author, Ralph Waldo Emerson. Ralph Waldo wrote that there is more godliness in nature than anything created by man. Let's talk about that for a minute. When we're in nature, we feel unbounded, limitless, timeless. We keep going back into nature to get that same feeling back. We get back into our living spaces, we deplete rapidly with only a memory of what it was like to be in nature. What we're feeling in nature is the unified field of creation. What that means is the resonance of the orbiting patterns of our planets, the growth of nature on Earth, and our DNA. They're all composed of sacred geometric patterns. They all three resonate in the unified field of creation. That's why we have spirit. When we design our living spaces with sacred geometry, we are designing into our living spaces that unified field of creation that will resonate with our DNA, with nature, and the orbital patterns of the planets. At that point, being in our living space will be just like being in nature. It's time to introduce sacred geometry to our design of our living spaces. This is a short video on sacred geometry. I've written a book titled the same as this video, Sacred Geometry, Patterns in Architecture. It's available on my website. Thank you for viewing. Discussing sacred geometry begins with the flower of life. The flower of life is the basis of sacred geometry and the geometric pattern of everything living on the planet. The flower of life exists in real time in 3 dimensions, expanding unbounded, right to left, top to bottom, front to back, surrounding all creation. Drunvalo Melchizedek has written extensively about the flower of life in his editions The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, Volume 1 and Volume 2. He explains the flower of life contains all history and future structure of life. The flower of life is a geometric basis of everything and anything existing in nature, life. Strangely, it's found all over the earth in unrelated archaeological sites carved in stone, as if with laser-like precision. Also strangely, no one can explain where it came from or who placed it where it's found. Shown here are the Platonic solids. They represent the 5 basic elements of creation: earth, air, fire, and water. They exist, live within, or form within the flower of life. The Platonic solids are the basic structure of sacred geometry and are formed within the flower of life. As stated, the flower of life is the basis of all life's geometric form, and thus the Platonic solids are the basis of all life. Plato wrote that God created his universe from primordial chaos using numbers and geometric shapes. The geometric shapes are the Platonic solids, shown here in model form, 3-dimensional. Plato goes on to write, as God created his universe, he used the first 4 Platonic solids: earth, air, fire, and water. Plato goes on to write, when finished, God realized he was missing something, spirit, to bind his universe together. God then created the 5th Platonic solid, ether, the dodecahedron, to bind his universe together. In nature, life, and the universe, spirit binds everything together. The planets in our solar system orbit in sacred geometric patterns. This is documented in John Martineau's book, Pattern in the Solar System. One example of this is the orbits of Venus and the Sun around planet Earth. Every 584 days, Venus top right, Earth at center, Sun at top center, completes one part of a 5-petal pattern. Venus completes this 5-petal pattern, known as the Kiss of Venus, in 8 Earth years or 13 Venetian years. This 5-8-13 numerical pattern is significant. It is known as the Fibonacci series of numbers. Any two sequential numbers added together equals the next number. Subtracted one from the other, the result is the previous number. Divided one into the other, the result is 1.618 or 0.618. The significance of this is this number 1.618 and 0.618 is the phi ratio. The phi ratio radiates an energy, a resonance, that surrounds the Earth. The Kiss of Venus pattern also generates a 5-pointed star pattern around the Earth. Each leg of the star intersects another leg of the star that divides each leg into the golden ratio or golden proportion. The golden ratio pattern and the Fibonacci both generate the ratio and resonance of phi. Earth at the center is the recipient of the phi energy, consistently and continuously. It is my observation this radiance of phi on planet Earth is the energy, the vibration that binds all life together. Moreover, this radiance gives each and every one of us our appreciation, our energy, perpetual desire to worship God as we choose. After all, as Plato wrote, God created the fifth element, spirit, to bind his universe together. As a footnote, John Martineau's findings of planets' orbits in geometric patterns have been computer confirmed to be within 99% accuracy on more than 36 orbital patterns. Orbital patterns of the planets in our universe exist on Earth in the growth of plants. In nature, it is known as the phyllotaxic pattern. Some plants grow in the Fibonacci pattern, generating the radiance of phi in nature. From the stem, 3 turns around the trunk yields 5 stems and leaves. 8 turns yields 13 more. 13 turns yields 21, and so on. Slice an apple perpendicular to its core. This will expose the seed pattern, same as the 5-pointed star pattern of the Kiss of Venus, generating the phi ratio. The hibiscus bloom is a 5-petaled pattern, same as the Kiss of Venus. The plumeria bloom is a 6-petaled pattern, another geometric shape. In a wasp nest, the larvae incubate in cells that are 6-sided geometric patterns, same as the plumeria. Star clusters form in a circular motion. This circular motion suggests a center of rotation. This center of rotation is a still point. It doesn't move. It's a transcendental opening beyond space and time. It's a link to spiritual energies that are not accessible outside the center point. Shapes with center points of rotation can be designed into our architecture and our landscape patterns to attract these spiritual energies. The human fetus is formed much the same as a star cluster. As the male-female components unite to form the fetus, their union forms a cell with a center point, much the same as a star cluster. It is at this center point life occurs, or life is born out of higher vibrations of spiritual energies entering the center point. Man fits perfectly within the pentagonal shape. This is not an accident, nor is it a coincidence. Christian mystics see the pentagon as the symbol of Christ within man. I feel it is also the symbol of man within Christ. Man's division within the pentagon is the 5-pointed star, same as the Kiss of Venus pattern around the Earth. This is a highly phi-generating geometric symbol. The legs of the 5-pointed star divide each other in the divine proportion, the golden ratio. Man within his own form is a phi-generating figure. Man within the pentagonal shape generates and receives phi. Phi is a geometric proportion equation by which spirit enters matter to create life. Phi is only the conduit by which the God-given gift of spirit enters matter to create life. The pentagonal shape with its interior divisions is known as the icosahedral cap. It is the graphic depiction of one side of the Platonic solid for water, the icosahedron. The icosahedral cap, linked together, surrounds Earth in what is known as the Christ grid. This shape, divided into 10 3-4-5 triangles, is a highly Phi-generating form. The sloping sides of the Great Pyramid of Giza are formed by the 3-4-5 triangle radiating Phi to the center core of the pyramid on all four sides. Excuse me. The Great Pyramid is a chamber of ascension and healing, not a burial chamber. The Christ grid surrounds Earth, radiating Phi to the Earth consistently, evenly, without failure. It is this radiance that gives each of us our appreciation to worship our higher spirit, God, in our own fashion. Without this grid of Phi, we would all be rocks in a box. The point of all the preliminary information is how to get sacred geometric patterns into our built environment to resonate with the unified field of creation. Plato, 400 BC, goes on to write that it's easy to get spirit, godliness into architecture. All the architect needs to do is to copy the shape, geometry, and patterns of the universe and nature into architecture. Plotinus, 400 AD, wrote the same. Shown here is a small office building, but it's filled with a layering of geometric patterns, inducing Phi, conducting spirit into the living space. Applying sacred geometric patterns to architecture is a layering process. It's highly intuitive, applied with intention, and there are no text or instruction manuals on how to apply sacred geometric patterns to the built environment. The floor plan is based on the Vesica Pisces pattern. The Vesica Pisces is interlocking equal-sized circles intersecting each other at the center points, radiating balance within the space. One side of the pattern represents universal consciousness, solar, gold, unchanging, unification, while the other side of the pattern represents empirical consciousness, lunar, silver, changing, plurality. The result of the pattern promotes balancing consciousness, proportionality, mediation, human consciousness. The centers of these circular patterns are also center points of rotation, explained previously. The purpose of human presence is to provide balance to all of our environments. This pattern will promote balance in human consciousness. Applying sacred geometry is a layering process and an intuitive layering process. The roof structure is all exposed beams and purlins with exposed wood roof deck. The beams and purlins are in the pattern of the golden ratio, radiating the resonance of Phi to the interior. In addition to the benefits of radiance of sacred geometry, the interior has a warm glow of exposed natural wood structure. Light is vibration of energy patterns, and as identified is 12 different color patterns. These patterns are identified as colors for identification purposes only. Dr. Ibrahim Karim, founder of biogeometry, explains in his teachings of biogeometry the most beneficial light vibrations are the vibrations of horizontal negative green, higher harmonics of gold, higher harmonics of ultraviolet, higher harmonics of gold being the most beneficial spiritual light energy. All the windows are of the golden ratio pattern. As natural sunlight passes through the golden ratio shaped window, the light vibration of the three most beneficial light patterns are intensified to produce an overall spiritual energy within the space. The window above the entry door is a pentagonal pattern with 10 3-4-5 triangle divisions with the shape radiating the energy of Phi as sun passes through the window. Again, the 3-4-5 triangle is the shape of the sloping sides of the Great Pyramid. In closing, I would like to say that I've spent the last 44 years in the general practice of architecture. My projects have ranged from office buildings, retail centers, schools, custom residential, historic rehabilitation, and a lot of remodeling. Of those 44 years, the last 30, I've been exploring sacred geometry. Information slowly came to the surface. Then 6 years ago, it all came to focus. I've written a book titled Sacred Geometry, Patterns in Architecture. It's available on my website. It's important for us to implement sacred geometry into our built environment. It can be implemented in remodelings and new construction. When we unite sacred geometry into our living space will be in the unified field of creation with nature. Being in our living space at that point will be like being in nature. We will have that unbounded, timeless feeling in our living space that we have when we're in nature. Email me with questions you may have regarding sacred geometry. My email address is shown on the next slide. Thank you for viewing.